Guys, back again. This is part 2 of the stories, and we're going to continue right off, kind of where we left off here. The first story I'm going to tell you here is not the biggest blue marlin I've ever caught. It's not, it's not an absolute giant by any means, but it's an interesting story nonetheless, and it's one that I never really will forget. It was the first day that JJ was working for me from over in Florida, the mud cricket himself. And so we were just started the day off. This thing comes up, piles on the Rick from Arizona. So it was a tantrum. At the time, I believe what I was running was a breakfast on my short corner, a XL Kaboom tantrum on the right short, a tantrum Kona Cut Bandit, the Rick from Arizona on the left long, and on the right long was Captain Feathersword. And down the center was, at that time I was doing a lot of Aloha bullets on the stingers. It was probably like a Uncle Mo or the Magic Malolo, probably Magic Malolo. Anyways, that was my spread, I believe, on that day, and I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was. So this fish eats Rick from Arizona, jumps around, puts itself in a position where I can get to it really quick, and we're getting to it really quick, and I'm like, JJ, get your gloves on. Here it is. And he didn't even have time, and this was the first day he fished with me, so this is the first fish we'd hooked, and so I don't think he knew fully how the program, well, I think he was just like, oh shoot, here we go. It was like happened. So he didn't move the rods on the one side up and out of the way. We got to this thing really quick, and my thought was let's just get a pull on it and let go of it, and then we'll get to it really quickly after that. But anyways, so it's swimming away from me, and we're chasing it. And I remember the charter says, and I didn't know this till after I saw the footage. The charter says to JJ, do these things ever come and jump at people, whatever, blah, blah, blah? And JJ's like, oh yeah, it could happen. You never know. They're crazy animals. They're unpredictable. And he goes, well, that would be a pretty cool way to die, getting speared by one of these, wouldn't it? And JJ's like, I don't know. So anyways, we're backing up. We're chasing this thing. And now it's swimming away. I'm coming up on it, and I'm putting it to the one side. I want JJ to grab the leader on, and so I put it to the one side, and I'm coming towards it, and it's swimming away like thousands of fish have done for me before, and it's like the perfect scenario. And you grab the leader, and it pulls away, and it starts jumping away, and you chase it, and you try and stay tight, and hopefully your wireman doesn't have to let go of it. It's an ideal scenario, and the thing looks about 5-ish, maybe 6. And comes over, and now what I didn't know was it was hooked through the jaw, but it come all the way through the jaw, and the point was sitting right by the eye. And now, if you ever caught blue marlin that are hooked in the eye, or the hook's near the eye, they don't like it at all, and they will generally come towards the pressure. When you're hooking them in the mouth, when you hook them in the face, you circle hook, like they pull away from the pressure. When you start hooking them in the eye or something like that, they go towards the pressure a lot of times. A lot of times that's trouble. When you have an eye hooked fish, they come right to the boat usually, and then lose their mind, and it's dangerous. And of course we don't want to hook them in the eye. A lot of times it really, if you lose the eye, it mortally wounds these fish. We don't want to hook these fish in the eye. So anyways, we didn't know, right? There's no way to tell, right? In my mind, I would have never thought this fish was going to do this. But he goes, and he doesn't even get a wrap. He just does that first, to grab and pull down to then get a wrap. And right then, this fish just does like a 180, like so quick. And it does the 180. I'm still in reverse. Now, when you take a boat and put it in neutral and electronic controls and then put it into forward, there's a delay. You can only be so fast. So, if you look in the video, you can see I've anticipated that move because I've seen it do the 180, and I immediately throw us in gear to try and get away from this thing. but you can't be as quick as a blue marlin. And luckily it was off to our side, because if it was straight off the transom or off to the other side, it would have come up and come into the boat. So yeah, sketchy. So it does the 180, and yeah, so he kind of pulled on it a little, and it does the 180, and it starts greyhounding like one, and then it lands, and then it comes up straight at the side of the boat, and it freaking spears my window, and I hear it hit the side of the boat, poof, and I look down and I see it, and I'm like almost eye level with this animal. It's like a 600 pounder, and it's just speared the side of my freaking boat, hit the window, and bounced off. And now I see it sitting there doing this stuff, struggling, and I know it's about to come tight, and I see JJ going over to try and wire it. I go, no, hold on. And then it comes tight, jumps away from us, and I said, we're good, just leave it. And I'm looking down at the boat, and I'm thinking, is my window there, and I'm looking over like it's got to be shattered, or it's got to have a crack, and it didn't even get a chip in it. And I'll tell you what happened there that saved us. When the fish jumped at the window, it opened its mouth. If it had just kept its mouth completely shut and just hit the window, and if it had gone even like 2 inches higher, I think it would have gone through my window. If it had gone just a little bit higher, I'm pretty sure it would have. But what happened was it kind of opened its mouth, and at the trim of the window is the hardwood trim, right? And then you have the window. And what happened, and that's where the hole is on that trim, its lower jaw hits that trim, and it stops some of the momentum. And now when it did that, it opened its mouth even more. So when the bill hit the window, it didn't hit it straight on like this, it hit it like this. So it shot it up like that, pow. And so when he hit it, it shot it up instead of going straight through it. And the momentum thing, and I mean, I reckon it hurt its jaw pretty bad. I felt really bad for the fish, but I also, we had like an elderly couple, the guy's parents sitting right there. If it had went through the window, it would have landed on him, and I'm pretty sure probably would have killed them. If not, it would have hurt them pretty bad, and it would have just, I can't imagine what a 600 pounder inside the boat there like that was gonna do. I mean, it would, unbelievable. It would be like, I can't even imagine. Thank God that thing didn't go through the window. I mean, I've put this episode up, and I'm surprised it didn't get as many views and as much, like, I just don't know if people quite understand how close we were to complete disaster and how gnarly that situation was. So anyways, that thing jumps away, and we get it over to the side of the boat. Eventually we get it over closer, and we kind of get the hook out, and I go over to grab its bill and its thing to try and check it out and see if it's okay, and it shakes me off, and I had to let go. It's shaking me, and as it's leaving, it frickin' hits the side of the boat and me with its tail, splashed water up as a final, and takes off. And I hope it was okay. It seemed fine. I mean, it swam away, but I gotta feel like it did some damage to its face, but there wasn't a bunch of blood off it or anything. And yeah, it was not an ideal situation. So you gotta be careful with those things, that's for sure. You just never know. So that is a story I will never forget. I don't think JJ will either. And that was his first day fishing with me. And I think after we got the lines back out and set up, he came up in the bridge and was like, oh my God, does that happen all the time? It's kind of like, what did I get myself into? And we had some fun seasons after that, but that was a cool one. All right, folks. Let's go on to one other story, which I do have some cool footage on. The other stories before didn't have a lot of great video of, so they're just kind of were stories. But moving forward, I'll try and do more fish stories that have a little bit more action. So here's a cool one. Old Bayou Brad, when he was fishing with me. This was the biggest fish of the season for us. I would say top 3 biggest fish I've caught in Hawaii, and probably the one fish I really feel like I probably should have weighed. But it's all good. When you hear the story, and you'll understand why I released it. So here we go. So we're out fishing. We've been having a pretty good season. Brad came down, gosh, I feel like it was in August, maybe. August has been good for me over the years. Brad came, I think, down in August. JJ had fished the summer with me, and he had some personal issues he had to deal with, some family. Someone was sick in his family, had to go back and deal with it. So he left, and Brad had contacted me and said, hey, I got some time, I'd love to fish with you. And turned out to be awesome combo. I miss fishing with Brad. He's one of my favorite crew I've ever had. We have very similar attitudes, real like low key, kind of quiet on the boat in the most part, like just get a good one on, nobody's freaking out or, you know, getting all nuts. He's real mellow, similar to me. He's a funny dude. Can't understand him half the time, that's why they call him Bayou Brad, but he's funny as heck. If you know Brad, you know he's a funny dude. He's now working full-time on some boats on the East Coast and stuff, and he's doing really good. Anyways, this is a cool story. So we're out fishing. So this is kind of cool how this worked out. So I had a guy, I was coming back from Cabo. I had just gone down there to find a boat for the guys I work for that we could use for the Bisbees. So I went down there, found the boat, we did some fishing too. I'm on my way back. Boys had me up in first class, which is really cool. So I'm flying home, get in my seat, and the guy sits down next to me, notices I had on like a fishing shirt or something, and he says, starts talking to me about fishing. He was down there fishing, and he said they were just catching tunas and stuff like that. And he says to me, you know, I'd really like to go fish Hawaii or something, or he said, anyways, I go, oh, I live in Hawaii. I said, I live in Kona, I run a boat in Kona, and we start talking, and I start showing him some pictures of the boat and this and that, and he said, well, I'll book with you right now. Yeah, it worked out well for me that this guy booked with me, because I ended up catching one of my biggest fish with him. Anyways, so he ends up, you know, we end up getting things sorted out. He ends up booking some days, and then COVID hits, and he has to cancel. Now, he was one of the good guys that didn't cancel and asked for a refund. He said, look, let's just try and reschedule when this whole nonsense is over. So the nonsense was over eventually. We rescheduled. It was like towards the end of the season. I was like, we'll see how we do, but you know, me and Brad have been catching some fish. I think you should book. So he ends up booking some days with us. And ended up having to cut his trip short, because at that time he can only get over for a couple days or something. But anyways, he comes out, awesome, nice guy. We're out fishing. Spread at the time, I believe, was a double XL poi dog on the left short. Right short was the breakfast. Left long was a yellow Koya 614. Right long was the Captain Feathersword, the Tantrum bullet. And then down the stinger was a Koya 9 Plus bullet. And so we're out there cruising around. And I can't remember if this was I think this was the first bite of the day. I'm pretty certain it was, yes. And anyways, this thing piles on and looked like a decent bite, but it wasn't nothing crazy. On the bite, I wasn't like, oh, there's a giant one, you know? It's just kind of like a bit of a hole. Pops off. Pull some drag, not, you know, pulls some good drag, and then just kind of starts to just slow down, just kind of like ticking away. And so we clear everything out of the way, boom, 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 get everything out. And the fish has kind of just gone somewhat stale. I've done the turn, so now we're kind of going with them. So we're not losing line, and we're barely gaining line. And so, you know, I turn and we start going over to this thing. So we start gaining line, and I'm like, Brad, get ready. Grab your gloves, you know, we're gonna get this thing quick. And now I can't. I'm thinking, maybe it's like a 300 pounder or 400 pounder or something. So we start getting over to it. And as we get close to it, I notice a lot of color in the water. And I'm like, what's going on here? And I see, and now I'm able to see, now that I can see the lure, that feather sword lure just glows. So I'm following the lure. So now I can see, okay, there's 2 fish here. And now one fish is a really, really big one. Black back, all lit up, blue fins, blue tail. And then like a small one, like a 100 pounder. And now I'm trying to figure out which one we're hooked to, because they're right up on each other. And the little one, the big one's kind of just swimming slower. And the little one is like over top of it and going underneath it and doing like crazy stuff all around it, hitting things like hitting the line. And I'm not sure if we're hooked to the little one, and the little one's freaking out and the big one's swimming with it. So I'm like, man, should we try and get something to pitch at this big fish? And I'm like, I don't know which one we're hooked to. So we're following it around, and I'm watching it for a while. It's a really cool scene, but now I'm starting to get nervous, because now I'm thinking, actually, I think we might be hooked to the big one, because I can see this little one's hitting line, because it's swimming around, and then you can see the line like bing, 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 bing. And it wouldn't be doing that if it was, you know, so I'm thinking either we're hooked to the big one, this little one's hitting the line, or we're hooked to the little one, and as it's swimming around the big one, it's getting, either way, I'm worried we're gonna get tangled in one of the fish and we're gonna break something off. And I was like, I do not wanna lose this lure. So I'm like getting kind of aggressive, trying to get after this thing. And it's just swimming, both of them are swimming around like nothing's going on. Like they don't even know I'm there. So we start getting real close now. And I'm like, all right, Brad, you're gonna get a pull on this thing. I say, if it's a real big one, you're gonna have to let go. I said, just be aware, you know? And we start getting closer. And now at this time, now the little one's kind of pulled to the side, it swim with it. And I have a good idea that we are hooked to the big one. So I'm like, Brad, we are hooked to the big one. Get ready, this is gonna be a scene. And we getting just to almost where the swivel's there, and he can reach out and grab it. And so I'm coming in reverse at it, and it's kind of off my corner swimming away. And I get over to it, and it kind of comes like this, and comes like, and then turns and comes like this towards the corner, and it's gonna come by the transom, and he's gonna be able to get a wrap. And when it does that, it must see us or realize something's not right. And all of a sudden I see the little one just dart off, just take off the other way. And the big one stalls for half a second and then just lights up and just freaking takes off. He never gets a wrap. And I don't even think he touched the leader. And the thing just starts jumping and just greyhounding away, and we start chasing after it. It was awesome.
Crazy thing just happened there. We're chasing this thing around, and there's a little one with it, like a 100 pounder with it. And started getting close. She's kind of just cruising like she wasn't even concerned. And then she realized something was wrong and took off and just went nuts. So, let's see if we can get her. It's a nice fish. That was pretty rad though. That was really cool. The little one was all lit up, swimming around it while we were on it, on the leader. Pretty rad. Basically just changing the angles and stuff, trying to confuse the fish, get it out of its habit.
Got it.
Once they get in a habit like that, they know which way to pull and they just do it. And sometimes they just kick your ass regardless. She's pissed. That's alright, we want this thing to get pissed and start coming back up.
And now I'm like, this is a real big one, you know, this was over 8. And so we're chasing it around all over the place. And we get to it relatively quickly, and, you know, get over to it, get it on leader. It's swimming away from us, it's kicking. I remember there was one leader right when he first started taking leaders and swimming away from us, and it kicks a couple times and it throws water into the cockpit from its tail. And I'm like, man, this is a real big one. And Brad did a tremendous job on the leader. We got it up alongside, and it was like really healthy and happy. And like, I wouldn't say happy, but it was like healthy. We're gonna, you know, we let it go, it's gonna survive. It wasn't like turning up or anything. So we get it up alongside, and we're looking at it, and it's all lit up, and it's beautiful, and it's swimming, and we're holding it. And I have my 360 camera and a pretty famous photo of it where we lift it up and the thing is just like a bucket mouth. And I look at that photo sometimes and think, man, we probably should have smacked that thing. But we didn't kill it because it was a breeder. It was breeding right then. It was spawning. I did take a measurement with one of those, what do you call them? Those floating ruler things, billfish rulers, where you can put them in the water. So it's not 100% accurate. And I wrote it down in my Instagram post. I think it was like a 132 or 133 or something like that. So it was up there. It was in the 8s plus. If it was like crazy fat, yeah, it might have been the one. I don't know. We should probably. A lot of people told me we probably should have whacked that one, and maybe we should have. But at the end of the day, it was a spawner. It's a beautiful fish. It was the best fish one. You know, I think we called it 850. Let it go. One of my biggest fish here in Kona for sure. Yeah, it was a beautiful fish. It was a great memory with Brad. I would say that's probably one of his, biggest fish in his career. So that's cool. He gets to tell that story, and it was really cool to see one out there spawning. I'm sure that's what it was doing. I talked to a few people after that, and they kind of told me that they've seen that happen before, and usually that was the case. So it was probably spawning with some males when we hooked it, and I don't think it really thought it was hooked. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah, I look forward to having that again. And you know, there's the small regret of like, well, we should have killed it and waited. It might have been close, but at the same time, I feel pretty good that we let that one go because it's the future of the fishery there. And yeah, we'll get one of these days that's just blatantly big enough, and we'll just know right away they're there, and it's gonna happen. So that was that story. Now, I think I've taken up enough time for one episode here. So we are going to close this down right now, and then I'm going to start a part 2. And hopefully we can fill that in with some things. I don't think I'm going to put too many more stories after that. But if you guys really like this, and you guys think it's cool, I can keep we can keep doing some of this stuff in the off season, and I can keep, you know, making these. But we'll see you back of the greatest stories of my fishing career. I wouldn't say they're the greatest. I'm probably missing some here, but some memorable stories of my fishing career. So stand by. Thanks for listening.